innovation is thinking about something game changing because there are a
So
lot
on
of
the
incremental
disruptive side, yeah,
disruptive side. So
yeah,
let me also give you a one liner in addition to that one word is you use the term faster, cheaper, better during your intro, right? So I think that's been the name of the game forever in terms of can I do something in service of my customer faster, cheaper, better? But the one thing that the better is probably the business model. Can I deliver this in a better way, right? And that's where most of the game changing elements are coming in. So back to the statistic I started with 52% of companies falling off that list did not happen because somebody came in with AI. It happened because somebody, yes, came in with AI or a better streaming service or better some technology, but they packaged it in a different way as well. In other words, they changed the game, right? And I speak about this in the book. While BlackBerry was doubling down on their product, right, the QWERTY keyboard and all of that, Apple changed the game through the App Store. They shifted the basis of competition, and similarly, Blockbuster and Netflix, they shifted the basis of competition. So that's why I use the word game changing. And I don't know if your listeners will be familiar with the game of cricket. That has happened in cricket as well, from a 5-day test match to one-day international to a right now we're talking about T20 or a T10. The game is getting compressed, right? And you will find that the same player who plays test cricket well is not able to adapt that well to T20.
yeah.
So I'm using a game here as a metaphor, but quite literally the game is changing.
So that's a really important point, and it's important for many, many reasons. But this morning I was reflecting on this, that I've spoken with a lot of people this year. Where are we? We're in February, the end of February 2025. And I have spoken with whether it's clients, whether it's people at conferences, whether it's we're having this conversation now. And the game of work is also changing, because I think everybody has given me a very consistent message that I have also experienced myself. And that is, the first 2 months of 2025 have been busier than ever. Every single person I speak with is rushed off their feet doing so many things. And partially, this could be a consequence of the rapid changing in the of technology market as well. We're all responding to things, and we're always on, and we have these kinds of issues in our society. But the game of work is changing. Therefore, the nature of skills, the nature of tasks, the nature of being present, the nature of pay, the nature of salaries, the nature of compensation, the nature of employment. All of these things are part of this game, and they are all changing alongside the technology landscape that we have. So I think it's a very important point that you've made, and it chimes with what I was thinking about this morning. So unbounded innovation is the U of the model, and the R, if you were listening earlier, can you remember what the R was? The R is relentless iterations. So, Rajiv, what are relentless iterations? Why are they relentless?
Yeah. Yeah. So that's I think a very important question. So just building up the story from organizational boundary to the line between physical, digital, biological, and then we spoke about the industry boundary blurring. Now, relentless iteration. I'm a quizzer, I told you. What dimension is blurring here? Just think about it. It is actually the time dimension blurring, something that's very fundamental to business, right? Now, if you talk to McKinsey, they will tell you about Horizon 1, 2, and 3, the now, new, and the next. There are certain strategies that you're working on for the now, this quarter, maybe this financial year. The new is what's just around the corner, and the next is something that's path breaking that will alter the industry maybe in the next 2 to 3 years, right? So every organization implicitly has a now, new, and a next, maybe more skewed towards the now and maybe some to the
Mm.
next. But the real understanding that I got around this dimension is when I was speaking to CXOs while I was working on the book. When I asked them, and mind you, this is pre-pandemic, I asked them, "What is your outlook for your company and the industry for the next 5 years?" They unanimously laughed me out of the room. They said, "You're talking about 5 years. I don't have visibility beyond 18 months, right?" And I don't know if they were intentional about 18 months, if they had thought through why they were saying 18 months. Later on, I was just reflecting on why is everybody saying 18 months. That's when I connected this to the Moore's law, right, which says every 18 months, the game is changing. But Moore's law doesn't apply anymore to AI or to the mobile, even. Maybe it's a few months that we are talking about. So every few months, you see a complete shift happening. While this DeepSeek and ChatGPT is going on, I don't know if you've noticed, Google has launched their quantum chip, Microsoft has launched their
Hmm.
quantum chip. I don't know what kind of revolution that might bring to us, right? So it seems like the pace of innovation is so much today that you can't be just betting on one thing and say that I'm good for the next 5 years. So we need to have multiple bets going on for the now, new, and the next, and that causes disorientation. Now, what does this all mean in a company, right? Just think about it. If I have $100 that I can spend, obviously I need to spend for my now, for my current quarter, because I need to achieve my results. But at the same time, I need to set up teams and fund them for disrupting my now. That creates tension within the organization, right? And that's one major reason why most companies that are successful, right? If you're not successful, you can disrupt everything and start over again. But if you are successful, there's a certain playbook that has worked for you. It's super difficult to disrupt yourself, right? That $100, can I set aside 30, $40 out of that to disrupt the now, right? How many leaders will have the courage to do it? That's really the crux of relentless iteration. It's relentless because somehow I think all are getting the sense that the pace of innovation, and it's all compounding, right? Back in the day, innovation used to percolate over a period of time, and then the next one used to come in. But today we know in a few days, ChatGPT after its launch reached a million people, and then 100 million people. So that diffusion of innovation is happening at a very rapid pace, and
Mm.
when that diffusion happens, the next innovation is ready to be born.
Yeah, so let's separate a couple of these concepts. So you have external innovation. So we're talking about companies in the macro environments, things that, not every company is going to go and build their own models. They're going to rely on OpenAI or Google or etc. to make these models, and then we as companies become users of those models. So that's an external innovation that we are using. And then you have internal innovations, things that you will do in your business to iterate on your products, on your people, on all of the parts of your operating model. So we can separate that out to some degree. And let's leave AI at the door just for a second and think about how in our industry, we have the learning and development industry, we have the human capital industry, and how do we relentlessly iterate the capabilities or the productivity or the capacity of the people that we have who are doing the things that need to be done. Now, the reason I say that is that the people that you have who are doing the things that need to be done, that might change over time. Operating models will change, organizational development will change, machines do more, people do more, each does less. There's a balance, multi-agent frameworks, human hierarchies coming together in seamless harmony. All of these kinds of things are concepts that we need to probably deal with over the next couple of years. But when we relentlessly iterate, we can't necessarily iterate if skills and capabilities and knowledge all stay the same. So how
Yeah.
do we iterate in that respect?
Yeah. Yeah. So one of the things that I speak about in the book as a response to relentless iteration, one of the cultural shifts that the organization has to bring about is continuous learning. If the organization does not have that culture, then you cannot relentlessly iterate. So this whole idea of build, measure, and learn that comes from the lean startup, right? The build, measure, learn. So there, one of the starting points is actually psychological safety. Before I can build something, am I feeling safe enough that if this, whatever it is that I'm building a prototype of, if that fails, am I still okay? Right. So those are, I think, foundational building blocks that organizations have to work on, and then allow people to build their MVPs, the minimum viable products or processes or platforms, build it out and measure and learn from it. And that continuous learning mindset. So here, I don't think it's necessarily about structured learning, right? Yes, that has its place. People need to take time away from work. This is like, again, sports. If you keep playing continuously on the pitch, you don't get the time to learn the new skills or reflect from your experience. So we do need structured learning to be effective, but there are other things that need to be done in the form of action learning, right? The build, measure, learn that I'm talking about, that can be facilitated in the organization. So learning teams now, I think, have to start thinking about learning almost from providing on the job learning experiences while you're working on certain things. How do you maximize that? And today with teams, you're able to get a lot of data. So you could be talking about inclusive leadership. But if you look at teams and the data that it shows, maybe I have a team of 10 people and I speak to only two of them in a team meeting. That clearly tells me that I'm not inclusive, right? So there are certain on the job metrics that can be used for changing behaviors as well. So learning teams have to sort of expand the scope of what they can do. And today technology allows us to measure things in very interesting ways. So structured learning for taking time away from work, make it experiential, give crucible experiences, and on the job, allow people to build, measure, learn. And continuous learning is sort of the umbrella under which all of these things are happening. So that is
Mm.
largely what I'm talking about in the book under relentless iteration.
So continuous learning is something that I guess people do, right? The locus of control is people rather than learning departments, because learning departments to some degree enable things to happen. And the role of a learning department could be to shift the standard to the mean, shift the mean. So you have the mean, you have standard deviations, you have normal distribution of population. This is, we're talking about performance, and we could be moving the mean. So everybody's performing just a little bit better. Or we could be just addressing the top performers, or we could be just addressing the kind of one standard deviation from the mean and letting performance management processes deal with the outliers on the other side. So we have all of these possibilities in front of us. Continuous learning as a concept that just applies to everybody. Is that tangible enough to be able to help craft the strategy for leaders, for learning leaders, for HR leaders to be able to deal with that concept of moving organizational performance?
Yeah, I think so. And today, more than ever before, I think HR and L&D teams have a crucial role to play. We spoke about the structure of the organization undergoing a change that's boundaryless. So that is all about org design. How do you create self-empowered teams? Right? How do you create agile teams? So that's all in the domain of HR. And then when it comes to learning, thinking about performance and the shifting goalpost of performance, because every 6 months to 9 months, new technology comes and the business realities are different. To what extent can learning teams also can stay ahead of all of this, almost become the trusted advisor for the business, saying, these are the three areas that we need to train people on. One of the things that I do find is while learning and HR teams are busy providing these services to others, their own skills are not taken care of, right? And more I'm seeing some learning decisions moving directly into business because they tend to think that we understand where the business landscape is shifting and we know the skills to be built, and so decisions are moving rapidly towards business decision makers. So one of the things that learning teams can do is sort of stay ahead of the curve, be future ready first. A cliche, but I think it works every single time. This is the oxygen mask. Wear it yourself first before we can help the business. So that mindset shift, I think, needs to happen with HR and L&D teams.
Yeah, I think I fully agree that upskilling is something that not only the L&D industry, but pretty much every industry is grappling with at the moment. How do you make sure you have sufficient skills to be able to enable the skills of others, to be able to enable the technical landscape, to be able to enable competitive advantage, etc., depending on which part of the business you're in. So I think that all works. So, Rajiv, we've gone through the blur model from your book. There is another model which we're not going to get to today, but maybe we get to another session. And that is the leapfrog, the digital leapfrog model. So as a teaser for everybody, there are two models in the book, model and framework. But this has been about the blur model of the digital blur book that Rajiv has written. So check it out if you're curious about any of the things that we've spoken about today. Rajiv, thank you so much for your time today, and hopefully we do this again soon.
All right, thanks, Ash. And I just want to sign off. And this is what I write in the book when I give them a copy. In today's context, machines are learning. The real question is, are you? So I want to leave you with that question. Thank you so much for this time, Ash. Really enjoyed this conversation.
Loved it. Thank you.